it is.
You ever get the feeling that everything in America is completely fucked up? You know that feeling that the whole country is like 1 inch away from saying, that's it, forget it. Let's see,
Hey,
we're
twist
on,
around. Now look, here's a
92
house full of
FM
bees.
tonight. It feels like
You think the
nice
honey
cool
badger
little
cares?
band
It doesn't
so
give a
far.
shit.
Listen, let's get one thing straight.
Price is right.
Guns don't kill people. I do.
To stand up and proudly say, God bless the God bless the Bill of Rights. I've got to say this as proud as you can. And I'm not proud of it on camera, not hearing, but I will never Took my family away from my Carolina home. Had dreams about the West and started to roam. 6 long months on a dust-covered trail.
So check out
they say heaven's at the end, but so far it's been hell. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, rolling them hills, and it's waiting for me there.
I think some apologies are in order.
Calling Kelly.
Hey.
Hey.
How's it going?
You're on the podcast.
Oh, wow. Cool. What a treat.
And I have to be hooked up to Bluetooth and everything.
I got to admit, I was my money was on it not working. So
Yep.
Congratulations.
Nah, something will go wrong. Don't worry about it. I got Jake's here and Joseph.
What's up, boys?
Hello, sir. Howdy.
So where are you right now?
In St. Petersburg, Florida.
Nice.
Dodging the rain. We came down to kind of hang out at this cool pier that they turned into a park.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as we got here, started thunder and lightning and raining. So,
Dude, Florida rain's the best.
it is. I was kind of looking forward to this. This is the first time it's rained, but there's just something awesome about being in super hot, muggy weather and then this like cool burst of just like exciting rain comes down.
Yeah. Any surf down there?
No, not here. We're on the West
Gulf
Coast,
side? Okay.
so it's pretty minimal.
Sweet.
But lots of beautiful scenery. Got to admit.
Yeah, that's a
It's
nice
pretty
part
cool.
of the country.
And then we're heading to Tennessee for 4th of July.
Awesome.
I only have 2 more security checkpoints to go through until I get home.
Got any stories for us?
Well, we were going through TSA actually in Arizona, which is the second time in Arizona this has happened. The first time, you can opt out of the facial recognition thing.
Yeah.
We learned that and we're like, we want to opt out. And the TSA guy was like, well, we have your picture anyways, on your ID. I was like, okay.
So you're admitting
like,
this is stupid.
So, yeah, and he goes, well, so much for being intelligent.
Oh, wow.
Like, dude, you work at TSA. Like, there's 0 chance you're smarter than me.
My cousin works
But
at
then
TSA.
this time,
No, he doesn't.
they stopped Gertrude in the, right after we went through the metal detector.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what's going on? She's like, I don't know. I asked the lady, what's up? She said, well, we have to do a search on the child's bag. Like, okay. And then they go to Melissa's bag and I'm like, hey, that's not the kid's bag. And the guy immediately is attitude like, sir, we have to search the bag. I'm like, yeah, but you said that the kid's bag. He's like, just let us do our job, please.
Oh, wow.
Sir. I was like, well, that's not. So would you just stand back, sir? I need her phone. I'm like, why do you need her phone? It's like, I'm just doing my job, sir. I was like, and she goes to unlock the phone to hand to me. He's like, you don't need to unlock the phone. I'm just like, dude.
Jeez.
And then I go, you said you were going to search the kid's bag. That's not the kid's bag. No, we can't search a child's bag. We can only search the parent of the child's bag. Like, wow. All we're asking for is a little, explanation here, a little information. It's like, no questions, slave. Get in line and do as you're told.
Yeah.
So So of course he searched her phone and found a bunch of kitty porn. So that took some explaining. But we got our way out of that. So
Yeah. Good.
now we're on vacation.
Very nice. Yeah.
I'm actually pretty relaxed. It's an odd feeling.
Yeah.
I gotta say, it's all due to you, by the way. Thank you for holding down the fort while I've been gone.
Well, I'm only telling you about the things that are going right.
Dude, thank you again.
Yes. I had already said, I'm like, if things go horrifically south, I'm just not going to say anything.
Please don't.
But I assure you, everything is going to plan perfectly.
Good.
Turtle.
All right.
Yeah, I have to. We're flying out at the end of the week to go up to Washington. I'm already dreading it. Because last time we flew, I made a scene because I wouldn't get in the X-ray machine. Are you actually in a zoo right now, or
What?
are you actually inside the zoo right now, like in one of the cages?
Dude, this huge flock of parrots just like flew over me and landed on this tree. This big green parrots. It's amazing.
Oh, you're making me jealous.
I don't know if you could hear the thunder, but
Yeah, we can hear it all.
So, dude, you're missing it because Country Summer's this weekend.
Oh, you're missing it.
And we can hear it perfectly from our porch. And we were going to go this year. And since I'm old and cranky, I was like, well, we have to get the VIP booth. I'm not standing in line in the bathroom, you know what I mean, with a bunch of other people or waiting for beers. So we always get like the VIP tent where you get your own bar and your own bathroom and everything. And at the last second,
Kelly. Are you okay?
You all right?
hey, Maddie, you're breaking up. I can barely get you. I'm just going to let you guys go.
Okay.
Have fun with the podcast. I have a
He's fighting
thunderstorm
birds.
to dodge here.
Okay, all
and
good.
A bunch of wild parrots. So have a good podcast.
Stay dry.
Later.
Please, bro.
Bye, guys.
Kind of an edgy call to take this from a park in Florida.
Yeah.
You dodging thunderstorms and parrot flocks.
That hearing that sound like made me relaxed. It's like very like tropical.
Oh, I wonder if we could get a audio track, something like that in the background.
Are you guys on next door?
I cannot bring myself to create a login.
Dude, it's comedy gold. It's so good.
What is this?
Next door, it's like Facebook, but it's more petty.
Like rumors and stuff? Or?
It's people looking for a handyman, and people just complaining about like people driving too fast. Complaining about fireworks, and since Country Summer is going on, it's you've heard the term Karen.
Yes.
It's like a website. It's a social media for Karens. Of just
that's what it turned into?
No, that's what it is. Yeah,
It's just people venting.
just bitching.
But it's your neighbors.
Yeah, but they're bitching about completely irrelevant, like useless things.
And you're on this.
Oh yeah. My brother and I have a running contest to see who can come up with the best next door post. So we're constantly taking screenshots and sending them back and forth. I'm still winning because there was a guy. What's the greatest quarterback of all time? Tom Brady. You know who he is, right? You follow football?
No, I don't follow
Okay,
football.
me neither. But Tom Brady, I think he just won the Super Bowl. And in the interview, they asked him about how he cut his hair. And he says he cuts his hair using the Flowbee. Remember the Flowbee?
Yeah.
Is that the vacuum thing?
Yeah. It's like clippers and a vacuum. It was like came out in the 80s. And so this guy on Nextdoor had a Flowbee in the box in his garage, new, unopened. And so he saw this Tom Brady interview, and he goes, I'm sitting on a gold mine right now. And he tries to sell it on Nextdoor, and no one responded. And he sent another Nextdoor post, and he's like, now he's really angry because no one took him up on his Flowbee.
So he got angry.
Yeah. And he's like typing, he's like, once again, I have a Flowbee in the box, the same one that Tom Brady uses on his hair. I'm willing to let it go for like $60 or something. I sent it to my brother, and he goes, I can't beat that.
Oh, you can't write it either.
No.
So how's that work? When you sign up, they get some information from you, and it basically drops you in a pool.
Social media, given your geographical region.
Yeah. So
right?
So you find out maybe people in your town or even in your neighborhood. How granular does it get? Like all the way down to your street?
Yes.
Beefing with your neighbor on this stuff?
Yeah. I've never posted anything on there. I'm just there for observation for the comedy. which is hilarious.
How
But
transparent is it? Like knowing like who's actually posting it.
I think you have to use your real name.
You have to.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
That's all I see on there. But right now, next door is like totally on fire
Oh, because of the concert.
because of the concert, and people are starting to light off fireworks. And like fireworks are like,
Right.
so if you're a Karen on next door, like this
they're
is like your
crazy
Super
right
Bowl. You wait all year long for this week, so you can
Counting down the days.
pound these posts in like with all capital letters, like telling people that fireworks are illegal in Sonoma County, and complaining about the music.
Telling the people who already know and are going through the same thing.
It's hilarious. It's,
PSA about what to do with your hypertension dog.
yeah, I get that. Yeah, a lot of dogs with anxiety and PTSD from fireworks, and these women telling you about it, and it gets super hilarious because this one lady, because I can hear Country Summer perfectly from my porch, which is awesome because we sat out there last night and just relaxed, warm night. You know, you can hear the songs and stuff. Saved $800 on the tickets, and now these people that are like just it's fireworks, Country Summer, fireworks, Country Summer. Have you seen my cat? I need a handyman. Fireworks, Country Summer. I'm just like ranting and ranting. And this one lady was trying to rally people to flood the police department with phone calls to get them to shut down the festival, which made me think like that poor cop that's answering that phone. She's calling and she's going, "Hi, this is Jennifer Goodrich on McConnell Avenue. Like, I just called 3 times already today. Are you guys going to send someone down there?" He's just like, "Yeah, lady, totally. As soon as I have an officer available, we'll send a cop down to this festival with 10,000 people in attendance and get it shut down so Raffles will come out from under the bed and start to heal from its PTSD."
This is the second festival with about 10,000 people that we've had recently.
Yeah, in 1 month.
Yeah, jeez.
So check this out. Jake, I don't think I've told you about this. You do know about the mag and some of the difficulties I've been having with the mag. Mag is the magnesium, Joseph, and I take it for sleep. And I'm already like a super vivid dreamer. And so like have these like crazy, surreal, like very memorable dreams. I always
All
have
the time?
all the time. I have been since I was a kid. Like, every night, just insane dreams, which I really enjoy. Yeah, even the nightmares. I just wake up like when we were on Old Street. I had to like it was terrifying at the time, but all these grinning monkeys were coming up out of holes in the lawn, and they're all armed with AR-15s. And I was trying to figure out like how fast I could get into my gun safe. But anyway, I started taking the mag, and it made these kind of more, I don't know, this more like mundane element where I would have these dreams that are totally inconsequential, not interesting, and I start to confuse it as something that actually happened because it's so vivid. And so I'll like call my wife, I'll be at work, I'm like, "Hey, did you still need me to get new towels on the way home?" She's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I'm like, "That must have been a dream I had." Like, never mind. So I'm working, and if you're working on a project or you do something like you're painting, for example, you do something like totally repetitive and mundane, it like sticks in your mind because like you close your eyes and you're seeing like the brush go back and forth. You know, if you're doing it for like 5 days in a row or whatever.
Taking out the garbage.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I was grading a driveway. Now we tore out all the existing driveway. Then you have to grade it, bring in the material, and you have to pitch it. Like, somewhere between an eighth and a quarter inch a foot, so all the water will drain away. And it's all day, like on the tractor, like taking the excavator, like grading stuff down, taking out a laser, shooting elevations, spray painting the elevations, take it down, like go down another inch and a half. You know what I mean? It's just over and over and over. So I was having that, like I'd go to bed at night, like seeing the elevation marks and the whole thing, because I'd been doing it for like 2 straight weeks, nothing but that. So every once in a while, I'll roll on my back and I'll start to snore like a little bit. Not a big snore, but if I lay on my back, and so I'll get the elbow from my wife. She goes like, "Hey, like turn over on your side." And so she did this right as I was finishing this driveway, and she elbowed me, and she said, "Hey, turn on your side." And in my mind, what I heard, because I was still like kind of dreaming a little bit, I go like, "Okay, all right." I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so tired. I do not want to do this right now." It's 12:30 at night. I wake up between my bedroom and the kitchen. I had already calculated that my driveway is 30 feet long. So I'm like, all right, so it's got to come down 8 inches. That's 8-inch per fall. My driveway's paved, by the way. I'm sure you noticed. I have my boots, and I walk out the front door with my boots, underwear, nothing else, like getting ready to grade my driveway. I thought she had told me. She goes, hey, can you go out and grade the driveway? Like I had dreamt that. Check this out.
You're not fully awake.
When was this?
This was like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Last night, and I swear to God, we can bring my wife in here and you can ask her. Same thing. I'm like kind of snoring. She gives me the elbow, like, hey, can you turn over on your side? I'm like, all right, yep. I start to get up, and she goes, where are you going? I was just like, why? She goes, well, I don't want you to go out and put your shoes on again. I'm like, no, I can do this over email. Came in here, sat at my computer, and once I opened my computer, I was like, oh, my God, like I'm dreaming again. I went back to bed, and she's all, what was it this time? I was like, you don't want to know. She goes, tell me. I was like, I thought you told me to go out and start sending out email blasts to people to stop the bombing in Iran. She goes, oh my God, go back to sleep.
And stay asleep. You gotta tie you up. You gotta have a camera. You gotta have a camera in the room, man.
I know.
You gotta set one up. This is gonna happen again.
It was pretty wild.
It's crazy how you can remember all this. Like,
well, it's not until like I go down and start like sitting down to do the thing that I realize I'm like, oh crap, like I'm still asleep.
When you see yourself doing this, are you seeing it through your POV? Or are you looking, can you, like when you remember it, do you remember it as your point of view? Or like you're watching yourself?
Third person thing?
Yeah. No, not the second one. I more just kind of come to, like on the porch with my boots and my underwear, going like, oh, what do we, and then everything like snaps into focus. I'm like, oh man.
Man,
but explaining what you're doing to your wife is very...
Good thing it's nothing dangerous you're waking up doing. You're just paving and...
Yeah, I used to sleepwalk all the time to do weird stuff.
And you got some material here, too, that we can get caught up with.
So,
could
just
be
shoot
worse.
the neighbors like you told me to do.
So how does the mag influence this?
I don't know. The only difference I've noticed with the mag, which I don't take all the time, is it's introduced this like more kind of mundane, like boring element where I'm retaining memories that didn't actually happen. And it's only like, because when you have like some apeshit crazy dream, like, you wake up and you're like, okay, like that was nuts.
Instead of monkeys with ARs, it's requests for towels.
Getting new towels, yeah. Because, now it's in my mind, I'm like, that's something totally that could have happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe there's a happy medium somewhere in there where, the monkeys are delivering towels and you just get a lot of stuff done at once.
Okay, gotta mix it up a little bit. You a vivid dreamer, both you guys?
It happens occasionally, but not very often. I definitely recall maybe once or twice having like a lucid dream where I was able to, in the dream, realize it's a dream.
And you can kind of control stuff
you can
a little
do whatever you want.
Yes.
Like, literally, you could be like, I'm going to start flying. And
Yes.
stuff, you know what I mean?
I have those all the time. I love them.
But I haven't reflected on it too much. But one thing that it was of interest is when you're in the dream and you realize you can do anything you want, I feel like it might be a mark of what kind of person you are,
Yeah.
the kind of stuff you start doing. Because
Yes.
you realize it's all nonsense. and
You notice I'm not sharing.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, it basically just becomes like Grand Theft Auto. So
Why is it always bad stuff?
I mean, just like it's
feed
not always
people.
bad stuff, but like I think it's probably a good idea. I don't have full control of a hyper realistic dream world all the time. Doesn't happen very often.
This happened at our old house. So this would have been 6 years ago. Here's the best one. I had to go to a therapist, and we were talking about dreams, and I was having trouble sleeping, and I was telling her about these dreams, and she goes, what kind of stuff you dream about? I'm like, it's the most crazy stuff you've ever heard. She goes, like, what's one lately? I'm like, lately, I just had this one that was crazier than the most crazy thing ever. It was based in our gym, so we had the jiu-jitsu mats were down, but the sides were this like kind of Roman Colosseum, like big balconies, and there was just people like milling around. And my brother had just started training jujitsu, and we were going to roll together in front of all these people. And we walked out to the mats, and then like the lights went down, like it was going to be a show. And I was like thinking, I was trying to like communicate to my brother, like, hey, we can't just like roll, like we gotta put on like kind of a show. And we looked down, and there was a kiddie pool full of olive oil. And I had him kneel down in the kiddie pool, and I took a full-size turkey, and I'd fit it over his head. I was like, we're going to turn this into like an art show. I was like, I'll just kind of follow my lead with this whole thing. And I told the therapist that, and she just looked at me, she goes, whoa. She's like trying to she's like, so are you close with your brother? Trying to keep the conversation.
How long have you been in love with your brother?
Like, yeah, we're real close.
Oh man!
I called my brother that morning. I'm like, dude, check this out.
That's what I told my therapist.
Yeah,
I used to have those a lot. Not that dream, but I used to have the lucid dreams a lot as a kid.
yeah,
And it was always my go-to was flying.
really.
I was always flying. I always jump off buildings, and then if I couldn't fly, I would die and then wake up, and then I'd be mad, like, oh man, I couldn't get it off this time.
Yeah,
I remember these vivid dreams as a little kid, and I would turn into the Hulk, and then smash everything, like destroy things, and just have fun. It was so much fun.
Yes.
But there was always flying. Now when I have these dreams, though, it's usually something going wrong. Like usually I'm in the truck and I'm driving, and the brakes go out. And
Yeah.
I can't stop, and I'm trying to get out. I'm trying to fix it. I don't want to kill nobody. Or I'll go crazy and reckless. I'll start smashing stuff with the truck. It's always work. Always in work.
Yep.
And but I miss those dreams, man. Those fun, lucid ones. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Remember details. Oh my goodness, I had a couple of them actually last year, and I told myself I'm gonna start writing them down. So
I did that. I would every morning I'd wake up and record it into my phone, like an audio version. I'd be like, all right, it's Thursday, blah blah blah. Like, here's what happened this time. After that one with my brother, I was like, I gotta have like a record of these. You know?
Yep.
So I had a thought. Do you know there's geoengineering watchdog tracking sites where they're taking samples of the air?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and they're finding particles of like aluminum.
Or the stratospheric aerosol injections, the SAIs.
Yes. And
Talking about those
aluminum,
chemtrail
barium,
things?
strontium, stuff like that. Yeah, they're going up there. They're going up. They're taking a NOAA vehicle, aerial vehicle, taking air samples, bringing them down, and then going through them to see like what's falling from using my finger quotes here, the clouds. And
Where are they doing this at, though?
all over the world.
This is, there's probably other ways of doing it, but this is by and large what people refer to as not contrails, but
Chemtrails?
Chemtrails, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Which is funny because if you talked about chemtrails 6-7 years ago, people would think you're a lunatic. And now they're just saying, like, yeah, we're spraying stuff
That's
into
just what it is.
And what they're saying is they're doing it to reflect light back into space to keep the planet cooler. But all that stuff is raining down on all of our food.
Oh, my God.
And it's at a microscopic level, actually. It ended up doing a little bit of a dive. It's at the perfect size. It's just under the size that would not pass through the blood-brain barrier.
Wow.
So this isn't in all of us now. Mm-hmm. All the stuff that they're spraying. Which I had a thought is, do you guys remember, we're all about the same age, is you go on like road trips with your family?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't go any road trips, my friend.
Okay. Well, you drive for several hours. You go somewhere. Mm-hmm. At the end of that trip, what was always all over the windshield?
Oh, the dirt and bugs?
Bugs. Is that a thing anymore?
That's a good point.
Remember they used to sell bug remover at the store?
It's less of that. It's definitely
Go to the
less.
gas station, you have the squeegee, you're taking all the bugs off your windshield on a trip. Mm-hmm. When's the last time you washed a bunch of bugs off your windshield?
Last month for me, going to San Diego. But it was...
Nothing like when we were kids.
No, I remember thinking, this is pretty simple. I actually remember thinking that. I was me and my son traveling, went to Legoland.
I started looking this up, that the flying insect biomass has been reduced by 75% in the last 25 years. Of all insects, 45% in the last 40 years. And I was reading articles about like why this might be, and it reminds me of the spike in heart attacks in 2021, and them going like, we don't know what it is. Like, we definitely know it's not that one thing, though. And that's what reading these articles were like. They're like, well, it could be
what you think it is,
a lot of real estate development. We're building more roads. That could be it. And you're like, it's definitely not this other thing, which I thought was kind of interesting. It's the same thing of like, they send people like, hey, we got to figure out where COVID came from. They're like, okay, look, what's that building over there? That's the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Oh, what do they do there? Like, well, they take novel coronaviruses and make them more deadly. Like, do you think maybe? Like, nah.
Let's not start with that one.
I think it's the farmer's market down the street.
So there's a lot of interesting information here. Looking for flying insect biomass declines. You said something about 75%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at a lot of this stuff. There's a ton of data, like actual math.
Yeah.
College papers, stuff from the National Institute of Health. Is there an admitted correlation between SAIs and this decline in insects?
I don't know.
Biomass?
But the point I'm bringing up is all the insects are disappearing right around the same time that we start spraying chemicals into the air. You're like, can we at least have a discussion that maybe there's some kind of connection? And I just find it very odd when you read these articles, that thing is always left out, which is same thing.
yeah.
Same thing as the COVID.
It's lying by omission.
Yes. And when I see that, I'm like, well, that seems like a pretty, at least a decent place to start of why this might be. And they're like, well, no, we're not even going to mention that. I'm like, okay, now I'm definitely looking into it.
I wonder because do they not want the answer? Or they already have the answer, and they're just like, when you start noticing it, here's what it is.
Yeah. I also find it pretty wild that we do things that were wild fringe conspiracy theories 10 years ago. Now they're like, yeah, no, we're doing that, but it's for your own good.
Yeah, you heard that. That's sort of how powerful the word conspiracy is, right? Because it's like, no, just call it that.
Well, that term was made up by the CIA in the 60s.
Right. Because that's pretty genius, though, because it's like, we'll use that own word against it.
Right.
That way you could just like toss it away as a conspiracy theory.
Exactly.
Oh, that's smart.
Well, not a huge fan of bugs by and large, but any kind of life being lost due to people spraying shit in the air.
I think that's, well, it also gets into the conversation of like, we're talking about that they want to dim the sun in the UK, which is interesting because they're not really known for their lengthy, sunny, hot days. Is whether it's bugs or dimming the sun or whatever, it's like you're getting into playing God. Like, this is a huge, complex system, and everything depends on everything else. And when these scientists, I'm using my finger quotes again, figure out, like, I think we can figure this out better. We can figure out the natural world better than how it already exists as itself. That gets really scary to me.
We're doing it for years, though. Doing it for years.
Yeah.
Slowly, but slower and slower into like, more and more. I've heard you guys talk about in this podcast. It really legit only takes about 15 years to change the whole layout of people's thinking and believing. Because you think about it too, as a child, like, 0 to 15.
Right.
They take in the most information. They're really forming their way of how they're gonna think and believe and respond. Respond. That's key. Like how I respond to things.
I think about that every day, every conversation I have with my son. I'm like, he's downloading this. Mm-hmm. He's downloading what you're doing. He's downloading what you're saying. It's something I'm constantly thinking about.
Yeah. Always data.
Be curious to see, what the impact of all of these measures to combat climate change are doing to the human lifespan. It seems like the average expiration date of a human is declining over time a lot. There's a lot of shit in our food, microplastics everywhere, all this crap in the air we're breathing. It's to the point where I don't even go to Safeway. Like, if I were to go to Safeway, it's because something went wrong. Like, I'm just...
Or you just need, like, detergent.
Yeah.
Or towels.
Something like that. Maybe some towels. You know, it's just.
Can I help you? Yeah, it's me and my monkeys are here to pick up some towels real quick.
Yeah, but I just kind of consider every single thing on every single shelf in every single aisle in that place to be more or less poison.
Yeah.
I don't know. And
It is wild. That saying always goes, I'm like, it's odd that we have these grocery stores and there's a health food section that's like one, it's like a one kiosk long. You're like, wouldn't this whole store be a health food section? If yeah. I was just telling Jake the story yesterday. I don't do like energy drinks or anything like that.
Shame.
I was at work and I was
try one.
I was at the lumberyard and I was seriously dragging ass and I was like, it's too hot to drink coffee or anything. So I bought what looked to be like the least evil one in the case.
Which one was it?
It's called Celsius.
Yeah,
and those are pretty popular right now.
And it came in this little seltzer-looking can. So I figured, I'm like, that looks like the least sweet. I'm not a big sugar guy. That looks like the least sweet. And I drank that thing. I thought I was going to die.
No way.
Yeah, I almost came home from work.
The heart was like...
It wasn't so much that. It was just like sick. Like I felt like I had been poisoned or something like that. Because it only had 200 milligrams of caffeine, which is 2 cups of coffee, which is not much. Bad, But it was like all the other crap in there. I literally felt, I was like, I feel like I got poisoned.
So what does that say about me? Because those things don't do anything to me but get me a little bit more alert. Yeah, that's good, man, because your body is rejecting all that artificial nonsense.
It was a weird I haven't felt that crappy in a long time.
I don't know if it was like an old wives' tale or something, but many, many years ago, I remember reading a story on the internet about a guy that was just crushing those rock stars or monsters. Like he was having multiple a day. Jeez. And ended up going to the hospital, and they were like some internal organ or some internal system of his. Yeah. They told him like you're 25 years old and you've got like I don't know the kidney of a 80-year-old person. Like so whether or not that was an actual story that happened, it was enough to put me off those things pretty much for good. I probably had 5 of those in the last 15, 20 years.
Not bad. I drink the pre-workouts too. Yeah. The little powders.
Yeah.
I try to get the least looking poisonous one too. Right. But the only reason I think that I'm able to survive maybe is because I consistently eat the same thing all the time. Mm-hmm. And that's almost the only, if there's poison in there, which I'm sure there's a little poison in there, it's the only poison that I actually take in. Yeah. So I'm praying that it stays that way and I don't wake up with any weird stuff or suddenly die or, just develop some type of weird something.
Well, the pre-workout one is weird. Back when this would have been 15 or even 20 years ago, they had this stuff called Jacked.
Oh, yeah, Jacked 3D.
When it came out, there was like this original formula, right? It's always weird when you get a product. I got a couple of stories like this in my life where I find some product that I like and I'm consuming it, and then it's just one day it's just gone. Yeah, and you're always wondering, what the hell happened?
What did they find?
Something happened clearly because like I wasn't the only guy buying this stuff, but I don't know. Maybe something is going to come falling down around me at some point because of all of the
Have you heard of Assault? Real quick,
Assault.
It was called Assault. This was years ago. I was like 27, 28. I was hitting the gym all the time, and I kept getting stronger and stronger because I was just like, okay, cool, this is new. I'm growing up to a big boy now, and I bought Assault. Came in red lettered product casing, right? Like it looked beautiful. I was like, I want this one, so I got it. I started taking that. My bench went up. I was about 165 pounds, and I was incline benching, do 25 for 3 reps.
Jesus, dude.
And I felt fine. and I would work out at 5 a.m., right? Yeah. To go to work, physical job, go to work. And then I remember it was 11 a.m., and I'm like, man, I still feel pumped. Like, I'm ready to go. I'm like, I still feel so good. And then I went to go buy my next, because you need it like every 2 weeks. Yeah. And I was like, hey, where's the Assault at? And he's like, oh, it's this one now. And it was Assault, but it was in green format. And I was like, huh? I was like, man, they probably found the meth or something, and they took it out. And then I went to go take it, and I was like, this is not the product I desired.
Exactly.
They took it out. They took the poison out, man. Glad they did.
They call that withdrawals.
This one. I took this Jacked stuff because everybody in the gym was taking it, and we're doing
Is it pre-workout?
This is a pre-workout, and this is a pre-workout. We're not lifting weights in here. We're like doing jujitsu and MMA, right?
Yeah.
So we're getting freaked out to just try to beat the shit out of each other, and mid-20s, probably maybe late 20s. Someone offered me some. Took it, had a crazy training session, but the weird part to me was like afterwards, I was like, all right, I got to go grocery shopping, and I just backed on Safeway. And it's kind of funny that now I'm mentioning after the training, I went to Trader Joe's, which I wouldn't go there either. But I'm standing in line at Trader Joe's, and I still have this pre-workout stuff coursing through my veins, and I'm looking at this little old lady in line in front of me, kind of got her checkbook out and trying to fumbling with her pen and trying to see, and I'm just like, I'm going to kick this lady immediately out of the way. So that, and I was like, that stuff was just literal liquid anger.
I was just going to say it, man. I'm going to come up with my own pre-workout. It's just going to be called Hockey Temper.
Hockey fight. That stuff made your pee neon green too.
Yeah.
That
was the other one. I think the Rockstar used to do that. I was like, what is in this stuff that makes the pee
What is changing
neon green?
Yeah.
Sure, it's cool to look out.
Your body does not want something in there.
Definitely rejecting it.
I'd be praying for stratospheric aerosol injections. You're just in there, just mainlining the stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty
bad.
normal.
Jake, I want to ask you, you never had plans to become an actual fighter, right? You just kind of ended up there?
No, two of the fights.
I want to hear the story.
I started training specifically because I was a pretty young parent, and I think my son was about 1 year old, and I was trying to figure out something he and I could do together, and found jujitsu in the same way a lot of people do, by watching, pay-per-view UFC stuff. Thought it was interesting. Said this little guy's beating all these big, crazy guys.
Hoist Gracie?
Yeah, he's using stuff. He wasn't physically imposing. He didn't have intrinsic physical attributes that he was bringing to the table, that he was born with.
So is it true that, not to side rail you, but who's the dad, Helio?
Hoist's dad was Helio.
Helio, okay.
So Helio had a brother, Carlos Gracie. It's just this.
Is this true that, because Hickson was like a freak of nature, but he was like a more physically imposing guy. Now, is that true that Helio wanted Hoist because it would prove that jiu-jitsu would work because he was a smaller guy?
It was not. So it wasn't Helio making that decision. It was Hoist's brother, Horion, who was sort of the kind of the brains of the business end of the operation there. And that's the story. There's a lot of these quote unquote stories that are like out there. Some of them are just kind of made up. It's a complicated history of jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, all that stuff coming to the Americas. To the United States, and the rise of the UFC and all these things, where the people that you hear their history because they want to be the ones you hear the history from.
Yeah.
And that describes Horion a little bit. But yeah, they said that they picked Hoist because he was not as physically imposing and thought that a less physically imposing character would,
prove that the shit worked.
Here I am saying that the reason I started training was because I saw this non-imposing individual kind of take all, combatants.
And that was in the old UFCs, there was no weight class. It was just like, show up, whatever you got to do, however big you are.
Tournament style, so there would be like you'd have 3 to 4 fights in a night, which even when I was competing, that stuff was still occurring. I had teammates in the Lions Den that would show up to 16-man tournaments on Indian casinos. So we'd be driving out in the middle of nowhere to these Indian casinos in some dust bowl in the middle of California, and your buddy that you train with every day is getting locked in a cage with just all these crazy people from all over the place. I got a million stories of these kind of experiences. But long story, moving along, started training so that I could teach my kid. I had no ambitions of doing anything professionally. For me, though, like I got in there and I started training, and I think it's kind of a human nature thing. And you find that anything you find that you have some sort of, you're a little bit of, you find a little bit of talent somewhere.
Yeah.
You just kind of chase it. And I guess that's, starting at the age of 20, maybe 21, how you end up training into, your late 40s, essentially, where we're at now. So
Yeah.
I've been doing it for, I've lost track, 25 years or so.
So my buddy Vody recently started training. And when he started training, I met him there. It was like Saturday morning, and he's got the butt. Like he goes, man, it's just, I really want to learn this. And I pointed to you. I'm like, go talk to that guy. Like that's the guy. He'll talk your ear off about this stuff. And I guess he went and talked to you. And he came back and he's like, holy shit, dude. That's like someone put like a USB drive into my head. I goes, yeah, he thinks about this stuff quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't recall the conversation where, like when he came up and chatted with me, but
he was stoked.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he came to one of my fundamentals classes and seemed like things were resonating. But yeah, the kid trained for a couple of years, probably from age 5 to about 10 or 11. Mm-hmm. But being the young parent that I was, I didn't strategically plant the seed of training in his life. I was sort of like a football dad. I mean, in hindsight, I recognize that it wasn't a strategic deployment of an idea to get my kid to start training.
Yeah.
It's much different now. The kids' class is a fantastic program. I used to run the kids' class, and at the end of kids' class, since we didn't know any better, we were just making them train the same way the adults did.
Yeah.
Fast forward to the end of the class, all 12 kids are just crying their eyes out. And it's a horrible experience for everybody. But we didn't know any better. So, there's a huge element of evolution in, we'll just call it the martial arts, where, you take what doesn't work and you throw it out, generally after finding something that can replace it. But, it's just this constant sharpening of process and technique, whether it's an individual technique that you're trying to apply, or it's like, hey, how do we get the kids class to be something that kids actually like and that they learn, so there's just a constant evolution and development processes in place. So I didn't do it right. Kid wanted to quit at a certain point, and I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. What do you want to do? He's like, I want to play the guitar and I want to ride the skateboard. So I gave him a guitar, I gave him a skateboard, and then I took the same sort of ham-handed approach I took to him training jiu-jitsu, and I forced it on him with the skateboard and the guitar. So, whatever. He came out all right.
He did. He did. So how did you end up? But you ended up fighting eventually.
Yeah.
So I remember you said something to me one time. I just loved this. At one point, you're sitting backstage with your hands wrapped, going like looking around like, how did I end up here?
The clarity moment.
Yes.
Yeah. This is always funny, like, because for me at least, never having pursued, this endeavor was never the destination of fighting professionally was never in mind at all. I fought twice professionally, my second fight and my third fight. Specifically because one of my training partners who did have ambitions of becoming, a famous fighter, had talked me into fighting with him through the fight camp. Basically, he was like, he thought I was so stupid, and obviously I was, that he could come up to me and say, hey, you should do this fight camp with me, and just kind of, we'll do it together.
Yeah.
And just take a fight. And I'm like, all right. That worked on me twice. I would never have fought if it wasn't for this one dude coming up and just basically being, hey, like, fight camp sucks, dude. We should do it together.
Yeah.
I'm either a really good friend or just a really stupid person. Or the common, could be perfect storm of both of those things. But yeah, it started because I wanted to teach my kid, had some aptitude for it, continued to chase it. The first fight was when our coach came up and, said, hey, there's an event. Someone out, there's this, God, I'm going to forget the names, but there's this organization called King of the Cage or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like they're having a fight up in the Indian Casino up north.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to put a team together. Do you want to be on it? And it's like, the answer is no. I don't want to go. I don't want to get locked in a cage with somebody that wants to specifically try to hurt me as much as possible. It's just like every element of common sense says,
Yeah.
that's not like what I want to do. But if then your lips start moving and sound comes out, and you're surprised to hear something else come out of your mouth.
Sure. Oh, fuck. That's not what I meant to say.
Yeah. So I fought the first time as a part of a big team event. So there were like 6 of us. Second time, I think there were 1 or 2. Well, obviously, the aforementioned buddy of mine was fighting on each of those subsequent 2 fights, but they weren't like big team events.
Yeah.
But, it's good. I mean, I remember miserably forced to jump rope for half an hour after hard sparring on just like a random Tuesday night in the middle of fight camp, and there's not a lot to hang your hat on there in terms of how do I convince myself that this isn't the worst thing that's happening to me? How do I make this seem better? And like, I guess I would always say, at some point I'm going to be old and somewhere physically where I couldn't do this if I wanted to. Just like 89 years old on your deathbed, hospice or whatever. And you get to reflect back on that time you were miserable jumping rope for half an hour after hard sparring on a random Tuesday, and just be able to say, you know what, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
So not, a lot of people have the opportunity or the ability, but they just don't take it.
Yeah.
There's, the fortune favors the bold element, or, just like, you get one shot at this stuff.
Yeah.
Do some wild stuff. Do some fun stuff.
No risk, no reward.
Yeah. I mean, the guy I fought in my first fight spent 6 days in the hospital after the fight.
Jesus.
And he won $100.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty rough stuff. So those kind of things soured me to the whole thing. I walked out of the cage after my first fight. All my friends and family were there, and everybody's really happy. I was happy, whatever. The guy I was fighting was there, and then he was gone, and I got my hand raised, and, yay.
Is it true? This is what I've heard.
Okay.
You've never been hit in the face once?
In professional fighting.
Professional fighting, yeah.
Yeah. That is correct.
That's fucking impressive.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways you could pull that off.
So, but now you're, now your memory's skewed. Like, what's it like being in the cage? Like, it's not too bad, actually.
Well, I don't know. Like, so going,
I'd take it over skipping rope any day.
going back to that first fight, coming out of the cage, everything was great until I I was going to go to the bathroom and take my cup off or something. And I come around the corner and I see the guy that I had just fought on a stretcher with bags of ice and computers and stuff laying on top of him, surrounded by his family who are just openly weeping.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy that just did this.
Yeah.
And I'm just coming around the corner feeling great.
Yeah.
And that experience right there more or less made it so I didn't want to do any fighting again.
Yeah.
I started doing this stuff because I wanted to do something with my kid.
Yeah.
I didn't have...
Not kill somebody.
No, I mean, I didn't have... I wasn't any angrier than, kid B, back in the day. I didn't have any sort of childhood trauma or, any weird, shit that, might happen to somebody that causes them to be an overly aggressive person. And seeing that kind of soured me to the whole thing.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's kind of the quick and dirty version of when I started training, and a little bit about the history of grassroots level MMA in Northern California or California in general. Yeah.
Those early days, really, really like a passionate few. Because just like you said, like let's go in the middle of nowhere, this casino for a few hundred people, maybe get paid maybe $100, get tired, get hurt, hurt someone else, not get famous. Like you're not going to get famous. You'll have like the pockets of people in that, you know what I'm saying, in you know that circle who you will be known by, and it's the experience though. Like the experience is like, I did that though. Yeah. We did that. You know, and versus now the kids are like, it's on ESPN.
Sure.
Yeah. Like they're making millions of dollars. They can make millions of dollars and get sponsorships. And
there's an interesting, because we were talking about skateboarding. There's an interesting parallel to skateboarding too, because I grew up skateboarding. That's all I wanted to do. Just like your boy Jake, just play guitar and skateboard. And now like skateboarding's on the X Games and sponsored by Red Bull, and there's skate parks everywhere. I'm like,
as a teenager too. As a teenager,
like now your kid, you know, my parents. I didn't play football my senior year because I wanted to skate more, and they were pissed because it's like, why are you riding this toy around? There's no point in that. And like now, parents, you know, the next generation, like, yeah, this is a legitimate sport. My kid could be on the X Games. Yeah, if you want to skate, I'll take you to the skate park.
It's a national competition.
You know, this is a thing.
Yeah, doing it way before it was cool is a thing. I remember one of these casino fights. There was like, you know, folding tables in the back where there was like merchandise that you could buy, and there were these goofy dudes that like painted their faces and wore wigs.
Tap out.
The tap out dudes,
tap out guys.
like the actual tap out guys would be in the back of these events.
Yeah,
with a folding table and a bunch of shirts for sale. And
was it Mask and Hightower?
Something like
yeah.
Punk.
They had a reality show for a while.
Yeah,
that was cool.
The 90s were something.
Used to watch that.
But like, you know, talk about doing it before it was cool. These guys, this was them like this is when they were in the garage. You know, they were like printing shirts in their garage. Like, what'll look cool? Dude, definitely, you know, an angry looking guy's face, some barbed wire, you know, this was before that stuff became cliche, right? So
before we had Affliction.
Before Affliction, you know. They caught the like bleeding edge of that like movement, and they rode that thing, which was cool because I show up and I'm like, I don't care about any of the pageantry. Yeah, I train every single day, and that's what I take seriously. I didn't even have a perspective. It wasn't even my field of vision that there is like some sort of culture. Yeah. Where you can like capitalize on like monetizing something like that, right? It didn't even I wasn't even aware of it. You go there, and there's the whole pageantry aspect of it, where you know you're somebody that trains every single day, and the people you train with every day, and that's all you guys know. Yeah. But then you show up at this event to sort of showcase what you do. And who the hell is the crowd, right? You would, I guess, you know, not being a very smart person, I'm going to assume it's all the people from all the other gyms. Yeah. Right? It's like this guy, fighter A's fighting fighter B. All of the people from both gyms A and B are going to be there, right? Right. Now you multiply that by fighters, right? So you got 16 fighters, 16 different gyms. 15, you know, so that's going to be the populace. So that the people that are involved are going to be here and invested. That's not the case. Yeah. That everybody I just described probably makes up, you know, 5 to 10% of the people that go there, right? Who is filling these seats? And the answer to that is all the worst people in the world.
Yes. We had, when I first started training at our gym, so it was almost 10 years ago, we had fights up there, and I went up there. I was like, "Oh, this would be cool!" Like, cause I got to know these guys. I'm gonna watch them, you know, compete and all this stuff. And as soon as I got in there, I was like, "I'm not digging this at all." Like,
these vicious.
I brought my father-in-law with me. You get the guy next to him. He starts making comments. I'm like, "Oh boy, like this is not going good." Which is interesting because you brought up the fact that people were there like repping their gyms. So we had like another academy up north with their shirts on. all those guys, coolest guy. You know, you give each other a nod. You know, everyone's totally polite and everything. But then you had just these fucking like just blood sport fans. They were just like angry, drunk hillbillies. And I remember at some point I went to the bathroom and there's just this giant group of dudes. He goes, dude, the real shit's gonna go down in the parking lot. I was like, I'm out of here. Yeah, I just got my family. I'm like, time to go. Time to go.
I've been to a few UFCs. I've been to I've been to like 2 or 3 in Vegas, and then one in Oakland. The one in Oakland, oh man, it was cool. It was Chael Sonnen and Silva, number 1.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness, man, that energy was crazy. I thought we were about to witness history. But anyways, but you can feel the energy, the negative energy, just from the BART station walking, because it's you respect the man in the arena, but a lot of the fans, I don't want to speak for all of them, but the ones especially who don't train, who just watch it, there's a different psychology there. They're not all of them, but there's the people who are like pretend to be tough or think they're tough, and now they're around this. It's real tough people.
It's funny. Me and Big Derek were talking about that yesterday. So we're talking because I got like a lot of fights when I was a kid. I was like, it's funny when you start training. One of the first things you realize, like, I don't ever want to be in a street fight. Like things can go so horrifically south.
How I avoid doing this stuff in real life.
But those fights that I went up to was like I remember because I'm just like a paranoid kind of weirdo. Like I'm constantly like reading people's behavior, and you know I'm not comfortable in crowds and everything. And I just noticed like halfway through the fights that all these guys around me, they're sitting there, they're on their 8th Coors Light, and then now they got their eyes squinting, and they're kind of like looking around because they're watching a fight, and they're kind of looking around like, I could probably do that. I'm just like, I need to get out of here. This is not what I want to be doing.
It's unfortunate, disappointing, but yeah, those are the, by and large, when you go to those kind of events, who you should expect to see yourself there. But they're all, you know, there's some other funny stuff from back in the day, like Jake Shields. I think his first fight was when like a fighter was a no-show at a card.
Yeah.
Many years ago, and they basically just asked him while he was in the crowd if he wanted to fight, and he ended up doing it and won. That's how he started his career. But you know, he had wrestled and he had been training with. I'm not sure if he was with Chuck Liddell at that point, but like that's how he got his first fight. Was they just were like asking the crowd. So that's
hilarious.
That kind of stuff would happen a long time ago back in those Indian like casino.
How much do you weigh, dude?
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, you know, it's funny. Brian, Matt's dad.
Yeah.
That's how he took up, because I was talking to Jamie, who was like instructing the jiu-jitsu, the morning class, and I had been out of town, and I had texted him, like, how'd the fights go? He's like, oh, they were good. Brian won his fight. I'm like, Brian? The only Brian I know is like my age. I think it was like 42 or something like that. I was like, Brian Blank said his last name. He goes, yeah. I was like, whoa, like what happened? And I run into Brian. I'm like, dude, I heard you're an undefeated cage fighter. And he goes, I was just there, and some guy missed weight, and the guy who runs our gym walks over to him and goes like, hey, brother, how much you weigh? And he goes like, oh, fuck. He goes, it almost was perfect. Like, I didn't have time to worry about anything. Like, next thing you know, I'm in a cage, like, fighting some dude.
Yeah, that's weird. It's kind of like a quicker version of, you know, being asked if you wanted to be on this fight card with the rest of the people on your team. It's like, hey, we're going to have this event in a couple months. You want to train for it and be on it with the team? At that point, you're like, let me think about it, right?
Yeah.
Go home and I don't want to be a bitch. All right. And that time is spent just grappling with your own self on a couple things, right? The guy that's like sitting there having a diet Sprite watching the event and then finds himself getting his hands wrapped. That's a different one. But I got to expect that trick would work on a lot of people, like, because they're just immediately. Yeah. They have to make a decision about whether or not they're going to, answer the call.
Yeah.
And I think the less time you have to consider it, the more likely it is you're going to do something wild.
Yeah.
That's not smart.
No, it's not. It'd be like your buddy, saying like, hey, 2 weeks from now, you want to paddle out in the biggest surf you've ever been in? I was like, no, absolutely not. But if you're in the parking lot, he's like, let's do it. I'm like, yeah, of course, dude. I'm totally into this. All right, take a break.
Yeah, let's take a break.
Get a peek.
Keeping the audio going so far, that's pretty good.
All right. Getting it done. There's a whole life out there after Strawbridge. Yes.
Damn, dude.
Fucking pit vipers. All right, where you want to go with it from here?
I want to go through this stuff because it's kind of paying off what Kelly brought up. Did you listen to the last podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. It's about that public land stuff.
Okay.
And it's going to get into something that I think that you would kind of, it gets into like data and stuff like that in these data centers. Something I think you kind of know about. And then let's do your thing. Finish off with that.
Sure. The other one that like kicked around was the beta males in power
Yeah.
thing. I asked the question while we were in the podcast. I was like, oh, you think they're actually in power? Like Kelly was driving this like women versus men thing.
Yeah.
And I was kind of going the direction of, that those people aren't actually in power. Gavin Newsom and Mike Walls or whatever. Like,
As Catherine Austin Fitz said, she goes, if you know their names, it's not who's running things. Yeah.
I've been kind of new on that.
Yeah.
More in my head lately, but we'll just riff.
Yeah.
What's your thing again? That you got?
About this public land grab. And I don't have a lot of details, so any details you kind of supplement, because I was planning on Kelly.
The government wants to buy the land.
Yeah.
The one that's available.
They want to get.
Yeah, so any details you can throw in about like acreage and stuff like that. I more got into like where this is coming from. So
They're selling off the
public land. I think it's 60 million acres. It's been whittled down. It just got denied actually. But hey, Joseph, you shut that door for me, bud. You need anything, Joseph? You good?
Hold on, good.
All right. All right. First, let's address the elephant in the room. Joseph, can you hold up those sunglasses for us?
Yes, I can.
These things are intense, man.
That's right.
They come with a free jet ski or
Just ambition.
just ambition?
Got this from the. I only get my shades at the gas station.
Those are bad. I am the same way. I can't keep track of nice sunglasses. So
No,
I'm like,
me
I'm
neither,
only
bro.
paying $6 for sunglasses.
Well, these were a little pricey. I mean, you see how good they look. $20.
$20.
Right.
Damn, drop some
Plus
coin.
tax. Come on now.
I'm flat out not man enough for those shades.
You can do it.
It's the jacked of sunglasses. I think what you got there.
The Jack 3D. Yeah, it's the pre-workout form.
All right, so I was planning on doing this with Kelly, and then we're not going to be here next week. Jake, you're taking over the podcast with a special guest.
Yep.
And so I want to get this out of the way now because Kelly brought it up, and I actually knew very little about this, and it's something I happen to be like really, really interested in, which is public land and the preservation of our public land. And he brought up the fact that this guy, Mike Lee, is a Republican senator from Utah, I believe. was spearheading this effort to sell a bunch of public land, BLM land, national service, national forest, rather, all kinds of other things. And to the tune of, think of like 66 million acres, I think was initially proposed.
Across 66 million across the entire like domestic U.S.
Yeah. And what was interesting about the conversation, so Jake, you listened to the last episode, right?
Yeah.
Is before Kelly got a second sentence out, I had like 40 flags that had gone up in my head. I'm like, wait. Say that again. Like, nothing's making sense here. Like, I'm calling bullshit on all this. Because they were doing it because you get this sob story from a Republican about we need more affordable housing. I'm like, okay, that's not making sense. Like, that's not the tune you guys are usually singing. And affordable housing in like the Olympic Peninsula and the Mojave Desert and like these very, very rural places, like out in the middle of nowhere, right? And they're trying to sell it off so we can make housing more affordable for the next generation. And he went into this kind of sad song about like, you know, our kids are going to grow up, they can't afford houses anymore. I'm like, okay, so 3 more flags go up. I'm like, no one builds a new house for their starter home. They get an existing house and fix it up and then hopefully do a little bit better. And what kind of, Joseph, let me ask you, like what kind of people move out into the middle of nowhere and build a big house?
People who just want to get away.
Or rich people that can afford to do something like that. And obviously are not commuting to work or anything like that.
They're retired. They're investing.
So when you listen to Mike Lee, who I think Kelly played clips, he was on Glenn Beck, and he's trying to explain the rationale behind this bill very poorly, I might add. I just go, like, I'm like, this guy, like, the more he talks, the more he seems to be kind of painting himself into a corner. And to the point when, you know, if you're having an argument with someone and they fixate on like trivial semantics in that conversation, you go like, okay, your ideas are not holding water,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
If you're arguing, you know, because Glenn Beck goes, so you're just putting this land up for sale. He goes, no, I'm just simply making it eligible for sale. I'm like, and the difference is you're putting it up for sale. Yeah. So this gets back into, I like thinking about things in like a larger, like kind of philosophical realm. And it gets back into the, oh my God, I just came up with it. Kelly wants me to write a book. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to write a book about. The head box theory.
I've heard you go on about that before.
So, Jake, if you had to guess, what's the head box theory?
That's basically where you're subject to something enough to where it becomes acceptable and like what you expect out of life, essentially, right?
Pretty close.
Okay.
What I'm getting at is once you get past, I'm coming up with the head box theory off the top of my head. Once you get past a certain threshold with a psychopath or a tyrant, there's no going back. So once we have the CBDC, there's no going back. Once you got those spike proteins flowing through your brain, there's no going back. Once we sell off all the public land, or 66 million acres, like that's it. We're not getting that land back. So, but what Mike Lee's bill was saying, it makes you kind of realize something, that because the way that he tried to explain it made no sense, which I think is a tell, because there's no logical explanation for this bill to sell off public land, right? Which makes me believe that they didn't have a propaganda campaign to sell this to the American public. What they did is they were trying to just bury it in, what's Trump's bill called? The big beautiful bill, this omnibus bill.
That's where this stuff is.
What's buried in.
Okay.
Yeah. So I go like, okay, so you don't have an explanation, yet somehow you feel compelled to go to bat and become the face of the guy like trying to explain something that's completely unexplainable and indefensible, right? Which is selling off our public land to a bunch of rich people, which I was just assuming. This is before I even looked at any of this stuff. Because the only explanation would be for him to come out and say, like, look, federal government, we're broke. We take in $7 for every $10 that we spend. So we don't have any money. And the only way for us to make money is to sell your public land to a bunch of rich oligarchs. That's the only explanation I have. Now, how's that going to go over with the American people?
Not very well.
Not good.
Not in their favor.
So then when you see something that doesn't make any sense, like that's when I go like, okay, like now we have to kind of like look into this. Now, thankfully, over the weekend, this bill, so what it went from 66 million, he kept whittling it down more and more and more and more, less land, and it just got yanked out of the omnibus bill completely.
All right.
Which is awesome. But the point is, he tried to pass it, which means
They're going to try it again.
they're going to try it again. Yes. Now thankfully there's these people like I follow, I don't know what you would call these people, like celebrity hunters. Cameron Haynes, Steve Ranella, Ryan Olkow. They're like guys that have they're like social media, but they're legit hunters. And
When you say hunter, I'm thinking of like paparazzi, or what are we
That's
talking
immediately what I thought, but I know what you're talking about now. You're talking about actual
like hunters,
They go-
like bow hunters, and yeah.
You're a celebrity hunter.
And,
I'm like,
and anyone who's into hunting is very closely linked to land preservation.
Right,
Because
right.
if we don't have a space to hunt,
okay. Yeah.
right. So these people are like some of the most outspoken environmentalists in the world about keeping our water clean and our land clean and having access for everyone to these public lands. They got together and then they got Joe Rogan on board. And now, like, officially, it's a celebrity cause. And it was all under the banner of something called Not 1 Acre. They're like, no, not 30 million, not 20 million, not 10 million, none. Not one single acre. And they flooded, much like the Karens calling the SRPD to close down Country Summer, they flooded calls to all their legislators in each state, because this is going on over the whole U.S. And, like,
This happened between what? Like, how
this
long?
is all within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then it just got
Power of numbers, man.
It just got struck down, yeah. But the point is, as you said, Joseph, like they try to get it through, which means they will try it again, and you would be hard pressed not to notice the connection that there is a very coordinated and well financed campaign against private farmland and public lands. Anywhere there's like space, where there's available real estate, shall we say, right? So here locally we had Measure J, which they were trying to, wish Kelly was here to explain it way more to me, but they're trying to shut down like public farmlands, because of the environment, I guess is what they're saying. All that money came from some very dubious nonprofits in Berkeley, places with no farmland whatsoever, and then they're coming up here, yeah. So you have to, when you see to this, at least the way that my brain works, I see something like this, I'm like, okay, what he's saying makes no sense. It holds no water. I'm like, there's something else going on, which gets you to the why of it. And they're like, what? So why would Mike Lee make the rounds on social media, every talk show, to defend the indefensible, which he did not do? His arguments held no muster. They held no water. They fell apart like very, very quickly. So when I look into these things, I go like, well, what are humans motivated by?
Fear.
Sex.
Fear, sex, and money, yes. So we follow the money. And so off the top of your head, if you guys had to guess, because we're talking about psychopathic tyrants that like to play God, who would be one of the largest private single farmland owners in the U.S.? Easy. Don't think about it too much.
Who's the biggest? Say that again. Like
the corporate name?
Who's like one of the
government?
No.
Okay.
Single private landowners in the U.S., a farmland.
Oh, China?
No.
They trying.
Bill Gates. Yes.
Oh yeah, Bill.
So we can say that Bill Gates probably has a vested interest in owning a lot of land, like farmland, which why do we use farmland? These are easy questions. Don't overthink them. We use farmland to
to grow things, to grow food.
Right. To grow, harvest, produce food. Now, is this because deep down Bill Gates has always wanted to be a farmer?
Unlikely.
Okay, we can say no. Otherwise, he'd probably simply move to that land and start plowing, but that's not what he did. What he did do was invest billions and billions of dollars in Upside Foods. You guys are familiar with Upside Foods?
Fake food.
Not.
They
Sell stuff at Safeway, I'm assuming.
Yes. And they recently received the USDA approval to produce lab-grown meat.
Oh, sweet.
So they're going to produce meat from a lab. You guys following the lab-grown meat stuff?
I know a little bit about it.
Like Beyond
Right.
Meat though. Fake stuff?
Yes.
okay.
It's created in a lab from like a protein cell, and they grow meat in a lab, and it just got USDA approval, right? Okay, so if he's buying all this farmland, he's not farming, yet he's making lab-grown meat. Something's kind of smelling fishy right off the bat.
So is he buying this land to
Build
put
laboratories.
labs on it?
Nope. Okay. Gets even better than that. So, doing no research whatsoever, who might be one of, again, don't think about it too much, who might be one of Mike Lee's biggest political campaign contributors?
Oh, Bill Gates.
Fact checked.
Oh.
He might say on the Glenn Beck program, I've never received any money from Bill Gates. I did receive a lot of money from Microsoft, however. This is similar to
that what he said?
This is similar to John Kerry flying around the world and lecturing us about climate change on a private jet. And we go like, "Hey, why are you flying around a private jet?" "I don't own a private jet," John Kerry said. He goes, "Yeah, it's my wife's." You know, you guys, we can look this stuff up. It only takes like 2 or 3 minutes.
Seriously.
Now, we talked about this land going for sale, and to what Kelly and I were talking about, I'm like, so it's not like you and I can just go down and start buying up BLM land. Because as Mike Lee said on the interview with Glenn Beck, he goes, well, there's a process. There's a specific process. Now, what could that process possibly consist of? Because us three can't pull our money together and go buy some BLM land, right? Because we're not part of the process.
Sure.
So the process insinuates there's only certain people that are going to have access to this process. I could only guess at this point. So now you keep following the money. One of Mike Lee's other main political contributors is a guy named Harlan Crow, who owns something called Blackstone Group, and Steven Schwartzman, who's the CEO of Blackstone Group. Okay. Who is Blackstone Group? It's one of the world's largest private equity firms. A private equity firm that invests in very, very large real estate development projects. Okay, so some pretty obvious fuckery, like right off the bat. But we're going to go deeper. Now, Jake, do you remember Kelly brought up that they were buying up huge tracts of land in South, I believe? Was it Louisiana and a couple other states?
For data centers?
Data centers. Most likely, and what did they need for those data centers?
Power.
And to cool down these data centers?
Power. Well, I guess power and water.
Yeah, tons of water.
Yep.
So why do they, I'm not putting you on the spot here, but why do they need these data centers? What do they do?
Supposedly they are necessary for infrastructure that will be used for artificial intelligence stuffs.
Yes. So they're creating these AI data centers that take tons of power, tons of land, and tons of water. The biggest data centers, you want to guess how much water they use? Well, we're being lectured that we're not supposed to water our lawn because we might be in a drought. Wow. What do you guys think a larger data center, how much water would use?
Oh, I didn't even want to guess.
I off the top of my head, I don't know. I've worked in and or around data centers for a pretty big chunk of my professional life, and they always have, the towers used for, they're more or less glorified swamp coolers.
Yeah.
But they're constantly running water. And the bigger the data center, obviously, the more of these things you need. So there's some math that exists that's like square footage requires X amount of water. I mean, you could probably figure that out.
The average data center needs about 300,000 gallons of water a day to cool it.
It says
The biggest ones are up to 5 million gallons of water a day.
I got something here that says Microsoft's global data center used nearly 1.7 billion gallons of water in 2022, with an average of half a liter per kilowatt or whatever. That's not square footage to water usage. That's power to water number there. But that's a huge amount of water for sure.
Yes. Huge amount of water and a huge amount of land. So we're already kind of on the trail here, and you guys are financing the guy trying to push the propaganda on all of us that we need to get rid of all this public land, which is kind of interesting. Now, Blackstone Group, they specialize in, this is from their website, dynamic sectors, including data centers, artificial intelligence, and infrastructures. They build businesses for, quote, tomorrow's economy. That's from their website. Now, last year, they secured over 400 acres of land outside of Phoenix. They're doing this all over the world, by the way. They wiped out the existing farmland and dumped over $25 billion into a data cooling center, according to their own words. Quote, there's a rising need for properties, but too few to meet demand. Now, Blackstone Group does a lot of things, which is kind of interesting because when we talk about who are the biggest banks, like getting the contracts to rebuild Ukraine and stuff like that, it's who are the three big ones? It's BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street.
Okay.
And so I'm like, there's a BlackRock and then there's a Blackstone. Be hard pressed to think those two things aren't connected. Same company. They officially split off, but they all came from the same place. And now this is not just in the U.S., but they have begun construction all over the world, in Paris, Frankfurt, they're in Virginia, every state. Now, I'm very skeptical to think that this land grab and these companies aren't related. They happen to be financing the guy trying to push the propaganda of the land grab. Now, Blackstone Group, they do a lot of things, including real estate and venture capital, and they're one of the biggest private equity firms in the entire world, actually. But what they say, or where they're putting all their money, is in this new data infrastructure, as they call it. It's a digital arms race. That's what they just formed a merger with a company called Digital Realty Trust. This is like the intermediary company that is facilitating all the land purchases, so Blackstone Group can build these data cooling centers, so we can then form a merger with the U.S. and Palantir for AI to control everything that we do. Because they can't do this, they can't do the CBDC, they can't have this increase in the surveillance state without the data, without the digital infrastructure. And to have the digital infrastructure, we need to have these cooling centers. You guys follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So when Mike Lee was saying like we need to meet the rising demand for people buying land, he wasn't totally lying, but he wasn't talking about
People.
people. He's talking about these companies, which I found really interesting. I wish Kelly was, before he was apparently attacked by a mob of angry tropical birds. He will be missed.
Poor guy.
But yeah, it was funny because he brought this up to me, and I'm like, none of this makes any sense, like whatsoever. And so I'm like, I gotta start looking into this. All this research, by the way, took me about 5 minutes.
So everything you just laid out makes me think of Terminator.
Yes.
Right? You got this company that creates AI goes crazy, and now we got a movie franchise. But it's almost like the people that are, able to make these decisions and create these organizations with the plan to, they've got these really lofty endeavors. We want to release artificial intelligence. It requires a huge amount of infrastructure. That infrastructure requires all these different elements like land, power, water. We've got to figure out a way to find all that stuff, and we got to roll it out. We were building this from the ground up, and we're not doing it just off cuff. Like there's a plan in place.
Yes.
And it's almost specifically like it came from like an 80s movie, right?
Yeah.
So it's like back in the 80s, did some dude just sit there and say, man, it'd be crazy if there was like this big company that, created all this crazy stuff and it went wild and, hilarity ensues. I should make a movie about that, but, it's almost like the people that are making these things happen are using that as the playbook, or that's been a plan for a very, very long time.
It has.
And at a certain point in history, the 80s, the only the way all they could do was make a movie about it. Like they couldn't, they didn't have the technology. They didn't have any of the stuff that was necessary. Obviously, it's
a lot of guessing work.
It was all being planned and designed from a very long time ago.
Yeah.
And here we are today where, things from a technology perspective have caught up, things are kind of where they want them to be. I don't know if they're on schedule, ahead of schedule or behind schedule, but this all seems like stuff that was dreamt up a very, very long time ago.
Yes.
And it'd be like almost an intergenerational plan.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, for sure.
That has been plotted out very carefully, and we're just seeing the constant the temperature in the pot is just rising slowly while we sit there and just kind of watch it, and it makes me think. So James, okay, cool, we got all the problems laid out, like what are our solutions?
Got me. One of the kind of trickiest acts, like the way that's hard for people to wrap their heads around is, I think you're right, this is intergenerational. It's been going on for a long time. That's why a couple episodes ago we did, like, this all ties back to the eugenics movement. And then the eugenics movement goes back to this, and it goes back to this. It's a mentality. And I think what we, as normal, semi-functioning human beings, for us, it's hard to have these conversations with people because we're so kind of immersed in this stuff. So we're like really interested in it. And I'm at the point, I'm like, nothing would really shock me anymore, especially seeing what was a conspiracy theory 10 years ago is like, yeah, no, we're doing that now. And it's for your own good. So, like, don't worry about it, which is kind of the second stage of...
Sorry, come back in the head box now, right?
Yes. But Catherine Austin Fitz actually brought up a really good point one time. She goes, it's really difficult for people to kind of wrap their head around is that, like, us as human beings, I want to be, I don't know, I'll throw you guys into this too. Like, we want to be nice to people. We want to be polite. I don't want to control what other people do. I want people to have the freedom to make their own decisions and everything. It's essentially like running across a serial killer. The guy with the head box. You're just like, this behavior makes no sense. I can't put myself in this person's head. Like, there's something totally broken with them. So when we see these like psychopathic tyrant authoritarians do all the shit, it doesn't compute for most of us. We're like, I just can't imagine that someone would want to do something like this, like subjugate millions and millions of people, control like what they eat, what they drive, where they live, if they can live somewhere, can they own property, and
why?
And so to have these conversations that talk about like stuff like this with people, it's like it's really hard to get across. I'm like, these people exist, and they have existed for hundreds of years, and this plan of like subjugation and basically like enslavement, we're looking at a digital enslavement of all people, has been in the works forever. They didn't have the technology back then. They do now, but it's the same mentality going back to the eugenics movement. It's like, it's hard for people to realize that there are people like that out there trying to do these things.
Well, it always comes down to power, though, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's like it's just power, because after a while, it's not about money or popularity or fear or any of these like natural things that sort of every human wants. But if you look back through all types of history, human history, it always comes down, for some reason, man, even though every man dies, it's like to the psycho or the... what's they call the dictator, right? The one who wants to rule everything. It's this power. I want everyone to do what I want them to do, and I want to be the one calling the shots. Or if I don't want to be the one calling the shots, it's a guy. I want to be on the same side of the guy who's calling the shots. I want to be his number 2 or number 3. And then it becomes like, well, is this, as you were talking, Jacob? I was like, this almost sounds like just a human problem. Since the beginning of time, is we all want to play God. I'm talking about the human condition is we want to be our own God, and we want to sort of let everybody know that, and I want everyone to fall in line. But then why?
Yeah.
But then why? Like, why?
Well, it's like, you're getting back to like, we can't get in these people's heads. We can't. Our brains don't work that way. Let me ask you something. We did this a couple episodes ago. Joseph.
Yes.
You wake up tomorrow, there's $100 million in your checking account, and it's legit. Right?
It wouldn't be legit.
It's legit. You get a letter from the IRS, like everything's above board. We're running an experiment. We just want to see like what you're going to do. What do you do? Top of your head.
Honestly, the top of it, I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't believe it.
Okay, it's true though.
And if it's
You know
true,
it's true.
if it's true, I would say, okay. Honestly, I would say, okay, thank you, Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I need your wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
I need your wisdom, God, because I don't need this, and I don't know what to do with it.
Okay.
But if you gave it to me, okay, Lord, let's lead. And I'm not in a rush.
Right. At any time, would it pop in your head that maybe you want to block out the sun with chemicals? Would you want to start a company that does facial recognition?
I'd have some ideas, but it wouldn't be anything like that.
No, right?
No.
Because you're a
It'd be to
decent,
free more people.
normal human being. It's these people. There's so much. So these people like a Bill Gates or Peter Thiel and these guys, they're worth like $200 billion. Yeah. It's like this is what they want to do with their money. Yeah. There's something that exists about like once you know like. I have so much money, I never have to worry about anything ever again, obviously. And neither does, the next 4 generations of my family.
Yeah, money's not the issue.
So there's a mentality that we're missing of like, now I want to get to work enslaving all of the people around me. And I think that comes from like almost like an intellectual elitism that these people experience. They're like, all these plebes, these dumbasses that go to work every day. The fucking landscaper and the plumber and the attorney and even politicians, they're not making these. Like, I need to get people to make these decisions because I know what's going to be better for all of humanity than all the rest of these people.
Yeah, I mean, basically it comes down to, people like Peter Thiel and Bill Gates and any of these, tech oligarchs.
Yeah.
Everything that we read about is given the spin that they're making decisions on some level of benevolence and that they're going to be doing something good for mankind in these endeavors. But when you dig in deeper or at all, really, you find that it's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Where do these plans that require such massive amounts of financial means, where do they come from? People don't just become rich and then start wanting to take over like the world, right? I mean, certain people, you got your cop that, probably shouldn't have passed the psych exam and he's got a power trip, that's one thing, but getting the financial means together and then deciding that what you're going to try to do is crush, civilization into the shape that you want it to be. I don't think that comes from people, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it comes from entities or organizations that are very much behind the veil that, as you were saying earlier, if you know their name, they're not in charge.
Yeah.
These people are just the figureheads.
It's the TSA agent that Kelly was talking about. And Kelly going like, okay, you've contradicted yourself 4 times so far, and what you're doing doesn't make sense. And at the end of the day, you can go like, I'm just doing my job. Just doing my job.
Just following orders.
Dude, I'm writing my book off the top of my head. Kelly's going to be so stoked. That's the 4th stage of the head box, right? Number 1, we're not doing the thing that you're saying. Number 2, okay, we are doing the thing. Number 3, we're doing the thing, but it's for your own good. 4th stage, head box. We did the thing. What the fuck are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
We're not. There's no going back at this point.
There's no going back.
Like
the public land has been sold already.
Yeah.
You already got that shot in your veins.
Yeah. Well, just picking one of these topics. You got AI. You got climate control stuff. Lab grown meat. Like who is? I mean, like, why? Is that's clearly something they're going to say it's because of the climate.
It's really hard to add vaccines into a living animal to be passed along.
Okay.
If we're talking about Bill Gates.
People that are pushing those, so you got your $100 million, you wake up in the morning and you're like, lab grown meat. We got to get this off the launch pad.
Yeah.
Like that's not a normal person's decision-making process, I can't think of a single.
It's an institutionalized mentality, I think, that's passed down from generations. You're born into this like psychopathic basically like kind of family structure. You're
you go back-
wealthy beyond belief. Because if we talked about if I had all that money in my checking account, like at no point or any of these thoughts can enter my mind. Like, man, it's like first thing I'm gonna do is like I gotta figure out where Joseph got those sunglasses and scoop me up a pair real quick,
A whole bunch.
and then I'm gonna probably go on vacation or
Get the
something.
plug. It goes, back to what you were saying too, Jacob, and then the whole reason on why, and that's what I asked you. I was like, well, why? And it goes back to, if we go to like the biblical references, it's the enemy, right? That spirit. There's a spiritual war always going on.
Yes.
There's always a spiritual war going on. And if God put this in place on this rock that we call Earth, and there's a certain order and a design that not only the Earth has to abide by, right, by its natural elements, but then the human being that dominates this world. We have dominion over here. So we're supposed to steward it properly. So if the enemy of God, right, the enemy, like Satan himself, right, if we're going to the spiritual realm, it's a deeper level than we can see, hear, smell, and taste and touch, right? If the enemy's purpose is to literally go against everything that the Lord has that God Himself has put together in place, then it would be to how do I distort people's minds? How do I distort the physical elements in this world to go against the order and design that God had already put into place? Because if you keep asking yourselves, well, why this? Then why do they want to do that? And why? It all goes back. You'll find the source, because there is no real motivation for a human being to want to destroy itself. There's no real there's no personal progress there. The human being doesn't win. He has to be lied to. It only has to be a promise off of a lie. And then so if we go back to what Jacob was saying about like, well, who's the one really giving the orders?
Yeah.
And it's like, and as you were saying it, I was thinking, well, it's probably the enemy. In the Bible, they call him the enemy. And it's, well, what's the enemy's purpose? It's to literally try to abolish and destroy everything that God put into place. And God put it in place. When He was done, He said, this is good. And none of the stuff that they're talking about doing is good. It's actually good. So I think we just...
Not only that, but you're saying God put everything, like, here you guys go. Everything's here for you. Everything. We got a finite system, closed system. Everything's there for you. And then we get people to come along with this institutionalized psychopathic behavior to go, I think we can do it better.
Yeah.
Let's give it a
What
try.
are we missing here?
Yeah.
Try my way.
Yeah, I mean, sitting on the porch with a beverage, considering all
Listening
the
to
evil
Country
people in
Summer.
the world. Yeah, listening to Country Summer.
Scrolling through next door, just enjoying myself.
It really forces, and that's one of the things, is people think that there's no way there could be some sort of plan to sort of subjugate the human race, and that would require too many people. That would require too many people all playing along. It would again have to be like intergenerational.
Yeah.
This isn't something, that Rome wasn't built in a day type stuff.
I think specific people are groomed for these positions.
Correct. Yeah, for a certain.
And oftentimes it's people with deeply, deeply morally compromised beliefs, which has kind of been the track record of the government and the Mossad, but I repeat myself, is they find people to get in these positions where they have the most insane dirt ever on them. Because they're like, okay, this guy is a broken individual. He's into kids, or he's gay in the 50s, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Something that we have to hold over his head, and we can just go like, this is what you're going to do next.
This is
not,
But, I agree with that.
Not to do
entirely.
every episode about Jeffrey Epstein,
But, the aspect of, the enemy giving the orders to his troops, and the framework of the plan that's going to, starting in, I don't know, 1600s, 1500s, way before that even, that's still in progress today is a fascinating thing that I think makes a lot of people believe it's impossible, right? You have to come from, I kind of got to come from a biblical perspective, God versus the devil, to be able to paint back to an origin of how something like this could actually be possible. And you just lose a lot of people right there because they've been beat down so much. Not a lot of people don't have a religious mindset.
Right.
They don't take any of that. They view the Bible as sort of a collection of like fairy tales and stuff like that. Where if, like myself, I grew up in a, just generic American Christian household. So indoctrinized with all of that from an early age. It's a little bit easier for something like this to be like practical or possible in my mind. Whereas if you take like someone from a purely secular family, and they just, all they know is what they're taught in school, what they see on the TV and hear in the news, something like this doesn't make any sense. There's like, okay, you got an eccentric billionaire. He's trying to do some crazy stuff, no big deal. But if you zoom out and, you do a dive like the one you were just referencing with BlackRock, Blackstone, Bill Gates, AI, public lands for, all these things, they're never going to be able to connect those dots. And if you sit down with them and have these discussions, they're not going to be able to receive it because, I talk about my conditioning or my indoctrination in like a Christian household. Again, that makes something like these stories of a single enemy with a long-term plan more palatable. Yeah. Someone else that doesn't have that predisposition is just going to say, no, this is shenanigans. You guys are crazy conspiracy folks. But, look where everything's going. Like, the good news, I guess, is in the Bible, supposedly everything works out at a certain point.
Works out in the end. Yeah.
Yes, give me something to latch on to.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
It's funny, the more deep dives I do on some of the stuff, my first inclination is always like, I can't wait to go to church. So I just need like a spiritual shower. Just like, okay, I just need to believe that people are mostly good. And I think people mostly are good.
I don't believe that.
Really?
I don't believe that.
You think intrinsically most people are not good?
Yeah, I think everybody's bad, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I think everybody's bad. I myself, I'll use myself because that's the only one I can speak for. But I got evil in my heart.
Everyone does.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So if there's evil in me, I can't be good. I can't be good by myself. I can't. I need something that's pure and holy.
Yeah.
And that's how God describes himself. He's holy. So if you have the Lord, like literally in that spiritual aspect, that the spiritual side of what I cannot physically see or taste, touch, smell, like it's like, oh, the Spirit of God who is good. There is no evil.
Yeah.
Then now I can have the goodness in me, the righteousness, the justice, but it's not because of me.
But wouldn't you say your willingness to accept that and realize that makes you a good person?
No, nuh-uh.
Really?
No, nuh-uh. I think it's just and the Bible says too, if you have ears to hear, hear. And I see like then use that and make a decision. But me making that decision ultimately works out for me too.
Yeah.
And honestly, okay, it comes back to love, right? And I don't mean love as the way I even love my wife or my children, or I love you too.
Mm-hmm.
It's what is love? Like God is literally love. So when you say love, it's coming from God, because that's what God exists in, love. He created us out of love, right? He forgives out of love. He teaches out of love. So if it's love, then that is where I make the decision to say I might want to do the wrong thing, but for the love of God, for the love that I have for my fellow humans, for the love I have for my neighbor, for the love I have for the person who hates me, but for that love, I'm going to choose to do things God's way. And then the Bible describes it too, even in the book of Romans, as a transformation that happens. Because I can make a decision today, and then I can make the right decision today, and then tomorrow I'll be like, I'm going to make the wrong one right now. I'm going to do this instead. Yeah. Because that was a change. But then when a transformation happens, you don't go back. So the God describes it as the transformation into a new being, a new creature, a new spirit. And I'm still like, okay, what's that word? Naturally, I still have that wrong in me, my flesh, my body, my mind, the one that I'm born with. But to be born again, as the Bible describes it, that's that transformation of, okay, now I'm letting the holy of holy, right, pure and good. He's gonna come in, and now it can. I don't want the. And I'm a testimony to this myself, where the things that I used to want and find maybe some pleasure in. I'm like, no, like that's not me anymore. Like I don't even know why that was pleasurable. I don't know why that was even a temptation, because the transformation starts to happen like slowly.
Yeah.
And that's only because of a good God, not because I'm good. And I don't know, go back, I don't want to harp too long, but to go back to what you're saying, how different people definitely have different degrees of badness, I would say, versus goodness. And that's obvious. And we noticed that from childhood.
Yeah.
You notice there's some kids like, damn, that's just a bad kid. Because other kids would be like, oh, he's sweet, or he's in the middle somewhere,
Right.
But I think that's the uniqueness that God gives us at even birth. That we are so individually different. Billions of people for God knows how long this earth has been around. I think that's a distinction between, like, the Lord makes us equally, like, we're all the same, but we're all indistinctly different and special in that way to God. I don't know where I'm going now.
That was heavy.
Makes me think of, go back to the lucid dream thing. You get the drive a virtual life.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff are you doing? It's like, yeah, maybe you might be a good person day to day. You get up, you take care of the people that are close to you, and maybe even people that aren't close to you. Maybe you're the guy that puts the shopping cart back in the stall. That's fine. But when you're given either billions of dollars, or you're having a lucid dream, you start doing all kinds of way out stuff.
I would fly into my grandma's grave and put flowers on it. And then
That's what I'm
I'd
doing.
get a prostitute.
Yeah, I don't know.
Varying degrees. So, yeah. Like all over the place.
Both good and bad.
Yeah, well, the capacity for somebody to do good when they have equal capacity to do bad. That's that's where your upbringing comes into place. The people that taught you how to live, maybe that's where religion comes into play. So maybe that's where your relationship with God comes into play. Because I kind of agree with Joseph there. Like I think to some significant degree, all of us are flawed, right?
Yeah.
We're going to fall victim to desires of many different types, and what keeps average Joe on the rails, a lot of times maybe it's the crime and punishment element, but also it's what kind of upbringing did they have? What kind of parents? What their parents teach them, if anything? Was there any sort of loose set of instructions they were introduced to that said, "Thou shalt not this or that"?
Yeah.
Because without those things, what motivation does a person have to do anything other than just be self-servient to themselves?
That's what was so interesting about the CTMU stuff with Christopher Langan. I think I talked to you about this a little bit. He's saying, well, all of us are ascending to this next level as we are living in a self-simulation with God as our witness, right? And he's talking about, then there's other people. There's no hell. There's not a little devil running around with a pitchfork poking people in the ass, and there's little fires going around everywhere. It's like those people are broken, and they keep getting recycled in these demonic roles over and over and over. They're reborn again, like stuck in this place, in this purgatory, but here on earth. As the saying goes, the devil wears a suit and tie. He goes, look at these politicians that lie us into war, that kill 500,000 people. These people that want to steal all our public land and give it up for basically propping up the surveillance state. He's like, these are the people that are being, the life before that, they were the same guy. Maybe he was reborn out of the person that was like outspoken for the eugenics movement, you know what I mean, to get rid of the Negro problem in America. It's this, they're living in these like recycled roles of these kind of in these demonic forms over and over and over. These are the people that I see, because when I said that people are good, I definitely did not mean all people. Because you meet people, I've known people that are morally broken. I was like, there's just no fixing this guy, for the things that he's done in his life and the things he's telling me about and the way that he's acting. I'm like, I don't think there's any way to save this person. They're out of their mind. Now, in the meantime, of course, all of us are flawed, but we're always trying to ascend to that next level of being better and better and better and better.
Yeah, what's the motivation for that too then? Like the people who I almost agree with everything you said, except for even the super broken guy, right? Because I've met people too that I'm like, this seems hopeless. Like, this is like, but I have to remember that, well, I can't save anybody. I can't change anybody. I'm not the one. Like, God didn't put that in anybody. Only the Creator can go and fix what He created. It's like, if anyone's gonna, and hear that saying too, like only God can fix him, or only God can fix her, and that, you know what? That's true. That's yeah. I think that's the only thing I have.
You and I need to sit down again.
Yeah. We gotta train together too, man.
Yeah, have one of our beat the shit out of each other and talk about the Bible sessions.
Yeah. It's a good combination.
Yeah, going back to keeping like the biblical theme alive here, the multi-generational plan, and Terminator, all these things kind of coalescing. Like it's pretty difficult for somebody that has had exposure to the Bible specifically to not make a correlation between the CBDC and the mark of the beast from Revelations. And it's it does appear that there's like a roadmap that's been plotted, and the whole world is just operating off of that. Like it's getting weirder and weirder, especially for somebody that, again, grew up in the generic Christian household and got exposed to all this stuff. But I don't ever see anybody banging on the drum like, hey, this all of the things that are happening right now appear to have been documented. Like, is nobody freaked out?
Yeah. It's the same thing as, I can't believe we're bombing Iran. Well, they wrote this all down back in '96. You can read it.
Yeah.
We're kind of following their business plan they proposed to us to the T at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. So getting back to like solutions, I'll just have to reference Terminator, because what they do, they just kind of formed to the resistance and started like...
Went back in time and found out that they're responsible.
We got to figure this out.
Got to get this time machine correct.
All right, I want to check out this Stuxnet stuff that you're looking at, Jake.
Sure.
You familiar with this, Joseph?
No. Mm-hmm. So, Stuxnet. Now, the whole point of this is a lot of us hear about the potential for World War III being born in the Middle East. Most recently, it's the conflict between the United States / Israel with Iran. And they're trying to get us to go into another war, is what it looks like. And a lot of people are not like super cool about that. Our government is repeating, this weapons of mass destruction capability by this third party, this country of Iran. It's a trick that's been used on us before to get us into wars. And a lot of us sit back and say, well, there's no weapons of mass destruction. I don't believe you when you're talking about Iran having nuclear capabilities or even their interest in getting their nuclear.
And I have to add, when because people like us say that, or I say that, I said, where's the weapons of mass destruction? Like, what are you basing that on? I'm like, because we used this exact same playbook in Iraq. There were no weapons of mass destruction. We had our head of the DNI go there 6 months, I think in March, saying that they have no nuclear capability. Like, I'm just basing it on a track record and what our own intelligence was telling us.
Yeah. If nothing else, you're basing it off of, you lied to me before.
Yeah.
And actually, it's not just you lied to me before. You've said this exact lie to me before, right? And the only reason I bring up the Stuxnet stuff is because it is, I think, contrary to the way we feel about this. Because if you believe Stuxnet, and we'll get into what that is in just a second, if you believe that this is real, that means that there was or still is a concerted initiative to prevent Iran from becoming a country that has the capacity to use nuclear weapons on another country, right? So what Stuxnet is or was, it's basically a computer virus, more specifically what they call a worm, which is a program that will hide itself inside a computer, attempt to replicate itself, so it's going to get from one computer to another in whatever means it can find to do so. And this particular virus, we'll call it, had some ingenious design behind it that made it really good at what it does. So it'll get from computer to computer, and it's constantly trying to figure out if the computer it's on is connected in some way, shape, or form to the equipment that is used to control centrifuges that are used for the isolation of, I don't know,
Uranium.
radioactive, isotopes,
Right.
So you've got this facility, and it's filled with these centrifuges that they got uranium in them, and they're trying to isolate or,
I think my marginal understanding of them, they spin at something like 10,000 RPMs.
Yeah, sure.
You're right.
Right.
And it isolates the uranium isotopes out, and that is used for nuclear capability.
Correct. So the design of this particular virus was so sort of profound that it had to have been created by people in lots of different industries in conjunction. So they either all knew what they were doing, or there was like some compartmentalization at some point. So maybe not everybody that was working on the project knew what the project was, but there was definitely an overall plan to implement getting this
They were just doing their jobs.
Sure. Right. So without taking too deep of a dive onto what Stuxnet, like how it worked, which is a fantastic little journey. You could probably find a 3 to 4 minute YouTube video that'll give you an overview anywhere. Stuxnet is STUXNET.
I want to interject something real quick, because you hit on something that I think is really important. Is that I think this is also going back to Catherine Austin Fitts. They're saying, like, we're talking about these grand conspiracies, right? We're talking about like the CBDC. It's like, okay, so how do we keep something like that secret? Because this would take somewhere between 15 and 20,000 employees, right? It's working overtime to create this code, this virus, this new digital infrastructure, or whatever. It's like, well, all these people are doing one specific job. They don't know what it's going for. So it's like, you, guy, you're writing this code that does this one thing. That's all you're working on. You're doing this thing. It's like, he doesn't ask, like, what's the grand scheme here? Like, what's this all like driving towards? It's like, no, you just do this thing, and then that could comprise all the employees of an entire company. Like,
Make
okay,
them sign
here's
something.
this one digital component of this one thing, and that goes up to these parent companies, which I think you're talking about. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Real quick aside on that, we had this guy we were training with, good dude. He was an engineer up at this large organization here in town that has a lot of DoD contracts. So they make stuff that, just isn't for consumers, or it's not for businesses. It's for, the government.
Yeah.
And he was leaving the gym, and we bumped into each other at, a pub on the last day of his stay here in Sonoma County. And I was like, man, so what do you do up there anyways? He's like, oh, I'm an engineer. I don't know if I cut that part out, but he worked up at that facility.
Yeah.
He said, I'm an engineer. I'm like, what are you working on up there? He's like, well, to be honest with you, I don't know. He is an engineer on a project that is to build a component of something else.
Just one cog on the
knows
wheel.
every single thing about this one component and how it's supposed to function, what its intake is supposed to be, what its output is supposed to be, what it's doing in the middle. No idea what's on the intake side of it. No idea what's on the output side of it. It's a component of a larger thing, right? That's compartmentalization. That's how they fake the moon landings, right?
Hey. I just build the wooden doors. That's all I. That's all I do. I don't know what they're for.
Mm-hmm. So the contrarianism here is okay. So you're one of us, and you think that the government lies about everything. That we don't even need more input, right? The government says the thing, we automatically throw it in the this is bullshit pile, right? That's not how most people are.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't have that like knee jerk. I heard it on a speaker, so I automatically assume it's false. Honestly, it's a pretty wide brush to paint with, but it'll serve you pretty well if that's how you operate. But then you find something like this, and it does kind of go the other direction, right? This Stuxnet virus was such a huge concerted effort from people in all these different industries coming together to coalesce into a virus that was specifically deployed in, we'll just call them an enemy state, with the sole purpose of damaging their ability to create nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
So if this is real and this is a thing, like, is there an actual threat?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have an answer here. I just think this, again, I'm bringing this up as sort of a contrarianism take on for somebody that just assumes that there's no meat on the bone for Iran being a threat. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But this virus was used to surreptitiously break the centrifuges that we're discussing, used for the isolation of those, isotope, the uranium process. If they don't actually have weapons of mass destruction, why did this all need to be done?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a good answer, but for the people that are out there, ourselves included, it's something to consider. Like, don't know if they're an actual threat. They could have been a threat at one point in time, and that threat, by ways of things like Stuxnet, could have been eliminated, and they're still using that exact same talk track to keep the war party going. Or it could be that there's an actual threat here. I mean, the government's got a terrible track record of saying things that are true, or not true, rather.
Yeah. It's kind of like working. You're like working with a guy who has all these like crazy stories. You start realizing one by one that none of them are true, and eventually your brain just goes like, I don't. He talks, and he's like the teacher from Charlie Brown. I just not really listening anymore. That's pretty easily applied to our government's track record with our wars in the Middle East and these threats with Assad gassing his own people and Saddam having his weapons of mass destruction and insert whatever country around there over and over and over. And we're lied to. It's almost like disappointing to go in Iran. And like, I don't know, maybe they did have nuclear capabilities. I was like, but you guys have to change up the war propaganda. You guys have to, like, we deserve better psyops. We're getting the same story over and over and over again. Each one is just a complete fucking tragedy with hundreds of thousands, millions of people dying, trillions of dollars being spent, ruining a country. And we come out the other end going like, whoops, I guess we got it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. After X amount of people have died on our side and their side. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Did a ceasefire actually get I was away from the news.
It lasted like 2 days, and then Israel bombed Iran again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to note that the location that the Stuxnet virus was deployed was one of the names of the cities that keeps getting mentioned as being bombed. So, I don't know. We do deserve better psyops, but at least they're being a little bit consistent here in terms of, saying this place is a problem. This Stuxnet happened back in, what was it?
2010, I think. 2010, like it was originally launched. I think it actually happened in 2010, but it was originally a plan called Olympic War Games or Olympic War Ceremonies, something like that. Under the Bush administration, but Obama's the one that enacted it.
Got it.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I recommend listeners take a look at this stuff because it's super interesting. You don't have to be a cybersecurity, nerd to appreciate. If you can find somebody that will lay out all of the details about this in bite-sized chunks, it's a fascinating topic of study. Seeing how they rolled this virus out, specifically to target hardware that is used to control other hardware that is used in the process of doing something like enriching uranium. Yeah.